Thanks, Renee, for and really excellent conversation there. And I think it really underscores the need to align the federal, state, and local approaches to transform water outcomes. But for the first time since the pandemic has really began, though, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The first waves of vaccine are rolling out. We also just inaugurated a new president, sworn a new Congress. And this is a moment to both heal from the crisis and chart a new way forward. And for water, that means solving the things COVID made worse, but also using this moment to transform some of the underlying issues affecting water right now. And today, the U.S. Water Alliance is releasing a federal policy blueprint that helps us do just that. So why this blueprint and why now? Well, the COVID-19 crisis is elevating the role that water plays in public health and in our personal well-being. Like other parts of the economy, the water sector is affected by the compounding crises of the pandemic and a nationwide recession. And water utilities in all of this are all being squeezed with increased costs and declining revenue. And while Congress has sent emergency assistance to other affected sectors like transit and air travel, they provided very little direct targeted relief for the water sector. And we think this could be a serious oversight with implications for everyone. And every industry depends on water and wastewater services to function. And the pandemic has shown that public health benefits from safe drinking water and wastewater treatment are immeasurable. Hospitals, grocery stores, nursing homes, all of our communities, they cannot function without reliable 24/7 access to water and wastewater services. But this crisis has also thrown the pre-existing flaws in our systems into sharp relief. Even before 2020, over 2 million Americans did not have access to water in their homes. Meanwhile, the situation for low-income customers is getting worse, especially with rising unemployment and personal income loss. Those who can no longer afford to pay their water bill debts are often faced with very real consequences, including getting their services shut off or getting a lien put on their home. And smaller and rural utilities are also in dire circumstances, and they may not survive extended crisis conditions without assistance. Allowing these small systems to fail is tantamount to turning our backs on the communities who rely on them. And this is an incredibly stark reminder that there can be no equitable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic if we leave out water. And at the Water Alliance, we believe that federal, state, and local levels of government can coordinate and do their part to set us on a path towards transformational change. And we can take this moment of disruption to ensure that water agencies are financially stable and high quality water services are equitably delivered. And if we do this, we can emerge stronger than before, a resilient water sector prepared for the challenges that lie ahead. And the blueprint that we're releasing today outlines the federal end of this bargain. And together with our network, we've crafted 22 different federal policy ideas for the legislative and executive branches across 6 different areas. So first, we need to make water more stable. Federal recovery efforts can address both the short-term financial shortfalls and the long-term financial sustainability challenges in the water sector. In the short term, water systems need increased liquidity to make up for lost revenue, to keep the taps flowing, and to keep the taps flowing and capital improvements on schedule. The sector also needs long-term funding and technical assistance to better prepare and fortify water utilities for future crises. Our recommendations address both the emergency and the long-term needs by setting up emergency relief for utilities and small tweaks to the tax code to give utilities some more financial breathing room during the crunch. But in the long term, we recommend at least doubling the funding for the state revolving loan fund programs, WIFIA program, the USDA rural water programs. And we are also recommending incentivizing utility regionalization and partnerships to reach economies of scale for all utilities. We also have the opportunity to make water safer. While advanced water treatment technologies have allowed people in the U.S. some of the best drinking water in the world, some challenges certainly remain, particularly related to contaminants like lead and PFAS. In the case of lead, Black communities have borne a disproportionate burden of the challenge because of historical environmental racism and infrastructure decisions. And we recommend locating and mapping lead service lines and funding a massive new coordinated federal approach to remove all lead sources. We're also proposing policies to research, restrict, and remediate PFAS. The federal government can take a holistic approach and make historic investments aimed at eliminating emerging and legacy contaminants in the water sector, especially in communities of color, rural and urban low-income communities, and tribal communities. But next, we need to make water more affordable and accessible. And as I mentioned before, over 2 million people in the U.S. live without running water or basic indoor plumbing. And millions of other low-income people cannot afford to pay their water bills. And when water bills are unpaid, utilities can shut off services. As critical as they are, clean, safe, and reliable water and wastewater services are not free. And many utilities face a catch-22 where they need to raise rates to pay for the necessary infrastructure, but often their rate base, especially low-income ratepayers, can't absorb that additional cost. So the federal government can tackle affordability through local customer assistance programs and improving the new low-income emergency assistance program that Congress just passed in December. But in the longer term, we also need equitable rate design and support for decentralized infrastructure solutions where it doesn't make sense to build out centralized systems. We also need to make water smarter. So our blueprint lays out a comprehensive utility modernization assistance program, one that takes advantage of new ideas and data management like the Internet of Water. So utilities of all sizes need support in closing technology gaps and preparing for future needs to improve operations, to keep costs down, and safeguard against future crises. And we are also recommending planning for the future by investing in research and development programs to push the envelope on delivering safe and affordable water services. Similar modernization efforts in the energy and transportation sectors that were proposed in the 2009 Recovery Act legislation have largely been successful, and we can learn from those successes and apply proven regulatory policy and financial incentives to modernizing the nation's water systems. We also need to make water more resilient. We know climate change is significantly affecting the nation's water systems. Climate stress is often felt as water stress, like flooding or severe storms, sea level rise, droughts, decreased snowpack, low river levels are all impacting communities across our country. And for every single aspect of running a water, wastewater, or stormwater system has become more challenging because of climate change. So these climate challenges mean we cannot manage our water systems the way we have historically. We need to equitably plan for disasters, improve post-disaster recovery efforts, mitigate the worst impacts to come, and invest in resilient water systems. And if we can pull that off, this would strengthen our capacity to prepare for and withstand current and future climate impacts. And this is also a tremendous opportunity to address historic environmental inequities while also kickstarting the economy with good new green jobs. So our final set of recommendations is a little bit unique in that we are recommending a new approach to water management driven by the White House that would align water management across the whole federal government. And water knows no boundaries, right? Like more than 20 different federal agencies handle water protection and management. And taking a whole of government approach to water management will require a radical reimagining. And it will require agencies that touch water quality, climate, environment, equity, economic development, and rural development to really collectively work together, work collaboratively. And at the Water Alliance, we often talk about this concept called One Water. So One Water is this approach to water management that requires us to break down silos to find innovative solutions to water challenges. And if we can reimagine how the federal government manages water, we could identify communities most in need of funding and address the inequitable access to clean, safe, reliable, affordable, and resilient water infrastructure. Now, supporting water infrastructure investment consistently receives bipartisan support, and I'm especially pleased to welcome two water policy leaders from the United States Senate to say a few words from their perspective about the opportunities for water in Congress. I'd like to welcome Senator Tom Carper, who's the chair of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, and Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who's the new ranking member for the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, who wanted to share some words with us today before we close out our time together.